The season of the pandemic seems to stretch from here to eternity, right? And even though there is now light at the end of the tunnel in terms of promising vaccine news.
But we don't know when and where we'll be able to get them. We don't know how soon this will change things in our daily lives either. So the reality is this thing is going to continue rolling. In our relationship reboot today, we're talking about pandemic frustration and how to deal with it. Joining us live on Skype, our relationship guru, Dr. Kirsten Lind Seal. Oh, a lot of people going through this, Kirsten.
Oh, this is really, really a struggle. You know, people are finding themselves more on edge. Perhaps they are finding that they're losing their temper more frequently and sort of wondering, you know, what is this thing that's going on? And it's just like this sort of constant low level of just heaviness on us due to how long the pandemic's been lasting and everything that's associated with it.
It feels like people think they have no control over what's happening, that all of this is happening around us. And I think about this a lot because it's very easy to go down that path, that there's nothing that I can do. But you do have some suggestions on what people can do to really help manage this. Yes.
So really, I mean, in so many ways, the control that we do have is over how we respond to any particular situation. And so, and sort of holding on to that and having that as a framework can be really, really useful. So for example, some of the questions to ask are my coping skills working well for me? And if not, what do I need to change? So some of the approaches that I recommend is, first and foremost, try to give yourself some real grace. Try not to be so hard on yourself. We really hold ourselves to high standards, and we're just operating in a different reality now. The second one is to make small changes, as you can, and cheer on each one. The third one, even small accomplishments deserve self-congratulation. So it's not about sort of saying everything's fine and nothing matters. And it's about saying, here's this one thing I did. Like, did you actually work out to that 10-minute YouTube video that you found? Did you actually take your dog for 2 walks during the day? Did you actually cook yourself, a meal that was good? So things like that are, I think, really important to keep in mind. Remember, no journey ever goes in a straight line. There's always ups and downs. There's always bumps along the way. And then the last thing that I would say is, really reaching out, talking to family or friends or a professional if you are really struggling is really important. Remember, there's no shame in either asking for or getting help around really hard times like this.
I wonder how much the loss of the kind of fleeting interpersonal interactions that so many of us have in the workplace or in the line at a coffee shop or whatever, the fact that that stuff is largely gone. If maybe we underestimate the power of blowing off steam when you're just belly aching about work to a coworker, and instead this is being redirected in some ways to ourselves, right? And being so hard on ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And something that I've really noticed that's very interesting is that people who tend to identify as extroverts struggle more right now. People who tend to identify as introverts, like in my, with my clients, there's a range of people, and some of the people who are way more introverted are actually, they're still struggling with some things, but they are less affected by this sense of isolation. And I have a few people who are just as happy to sort of be down in their basement working.
Yeah, I don't have to deal with anyone at work anymore. I don't have to go to that event or whatever. Yeah.
I also wonder too if it's this time of year, it's the holiday time where your traditions and getting together with your family are so important. We saw this over Thanksgiving. I think we're starting to see it again as we come up on Hanukkah and Christmas and some other holidays. That makes it even tougher.
It makes it even tougher, and there was a really great article, I think it's Julia Marcus in The Atlantic she's an epidemiologist at Harvard, and she was talking about a harm reduction model for people wanting to get together with their family at the holidays. And I thought that was really sort of a brilliant way to go about thinking about it. Again, we've talked a lot about this risk versus reward, but having this balance. Some people are just going to make the decision, nope, I'm going to stay home, I'm going to do it by myself. And, in that with that decision, sort of making, having a Zoom call, trying to make something yummy to eat, connecting in any way you can. But with the people who do decide to go and get together, which again carries a significant amount of risk, understanding what they can do to lower that risk is really important. And at the end of the day, right, we're all doing the best we can. And honestly, I think in many ways, simply surviving this pandemic should be considered a massive success.
Yes, totally agree. Kirsten, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to be here.